Hi, good afternoon. I'm Catherine Flanagan. I'm the Vice President of Communications for the Brevard Author Society. And today we're at the Authors for Authors Conference in Melbourne, Florida. And this is D.L. Havlin, who is... Hi, nice to meet you. And he has several books that he's published. Would you like to show the audience your books?
Well, this is the latest and greatest. This is called Turtle Point. It's a mystery. I do history and mystery, Captain.
History, mystery, huh?
History and mystery.
Let's hold it up like that.
Okay, and this book is great for not only mystery buffs, but it also has a lot of information on sea turtles. So if you're an ecologist, you would learn a lot about one of our most docile and good citizens here in the state of Florida.
That's true. Very good, very good. And what else do you have there?
Well, this would be part of the history. This is an interesting book. This is called Blue Water, Red Blood. And if you look at the cover, you'll see that there's a marine landing vehicle that was used in the Second World War. Well, this actually is a Florida story because that vehicle wasn't designed as a military vehicle at all. It was actually designed as a hurricane rescue device as a result of the 1928 hurricane.
Oh. How interesting.
That hurricane killed 2,500 people on the south shore of Okeechobee, and a gentleman by the name of Don Roebling owned a lot of property up in the Lake Placid area. If the name Roebling sounds familiar, his grandfather built the Brooklyn Bridge. And when basically he empowered his son to design a hurricane rescue device that would be able to go anywhere and go do anything, and that became this vehicle. And when in 1937, when the Orange Plan, which was the U.S. military plan to progress across the Pacific, became necessary to reactivate, this landing craft, which was called the Alligator at that time, became the primary landing craft that the Marines used all through the war, starting with Tarawa all the way through Iwo Jima. And when I say it's a Florida story, it was designed and tested in Don Roebling's swimming pool in Clearwater and in Clearwater Bay. And when it came time to build them, there actually were 11,000 of these built in Lakeland, Florida. There was a plant built there expressly to make these and manufacture these machines.
Oh, how wonderful. That's a great, I didn't know any of that. That's really wonderful. And what is this other one?
This one is set right here, right in your backyard. This is called The Bait Man. And The Bait Man is a mystery. It's a story with a feminine heroine who is trying to rejuvenate her reputation. She was the village wild child in Vero Beach, and she's come back after a tour in the Marines, and she's decided to go to school and become, of all things, an archaeologist. And this is a story about one of the people that she meets while she's trying to make ends meet working, and he is the bait man, and he's not a very nice guy.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. That sounds really good. So do you have any other books, just the 3 books out, or do you have others?
No, I've actually had 10 books published, and I'm traditionally published.
Oh, you're traditionally published?
Yes.
Okay, that's very good. What do you think is one of the most neglected issues that authors deal or don't deal with today?
I think one of the most neglected issues is the responsibility that the author has to produce a quality product. One of the things that we face today with the growing number of independent and self-published books is the fact that there really isn't very many gatekeepers. And each of us have to realize that the work that we put out affects every other author. If we put out a substandard book that has poor craft, that has shoddy fact research, someone who reads that book begins to wonder, am I really smart to buy someone else's book that I don't know? What that does is restrict the market for new authors. And certainly we don't want that.
No.
We don't want to get it to the point that only the big name authors, the Clancy's, the Rices, those people are the only people that sell books. But yet when we do that, when we don't really police ourselves, we force that situation to get worse.
Do you think that having critique groups would help people become more aware of that?
I think it does. I think it does. I think one of the things that a lot of times we take our critiques from people that we know, and Aunt Mary or Sister Sue is not going to give us the hard, cold facts that we need about what we're doing all the time. So critique groups are an excellent thing. And one of the things that I think is an excellent way to do it is to make sure that we have text, things like the Chicago Style Manual if we're working with the press and AP manual, to be able to make sure that we're presenting our craft is up to the standards of the industry we're serving.
That's true. That's very, very true. What 3 things would you like prospective writers to know before they begin their career?
Be realistic in your aspirations. Understand that, for example, if you're trying to become an A, B, or C level author in fiction and reach that level, that it is 1,000 times harder to do that than it is to make an NFL roster, and that's facts that you can calculate.
Really?
Second, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Second, I would say that when they decide to write, if they decide to write for publication, determine something they're passionate about, then determine where the market for that passion is, and write to the passion in the market. That way they're writing something they want to write, and they have a market that they know exists, and they can go out and they can sell their books to. Isn't it much easier to know that there is someone who will buy our books rather than writing a book and then hope we can find someone to buy it?
So what you're saying is, like, if a person likes to write fantasy, that they decide they're going to write it for the YA market or the young adult market, or if they're going to write it for the adult market, they should decide which market they're going to.
That's right, Kit. And in fact, the more that you can define it, let's say that in that fantasy market that it's a superhero, you can define where you can find superhero readers a lot easier than you can just define someone in general fantasy. So the more specific you can define where your market is, it's easier to find those people and get them to buy your book.
Okay, very good. What was the third thing?
The third thing, I think, is just having the persistence and the patience to really produce that good product. One of the things, the first books that I wrote, I usually rewrote maybe once or twice. I find that my average now is 11 times to rewrite a book to make sure that the continuity, all the legalities, all the craft issues, all those items that in the pacing, which is very important today, that all of those things are taken into account. So when I take this book and I hold it up in front of someone and say, you should buy this book, it's a good book, I'm telling them the truth. And I think that's extremely important.
What do you think about the concept of Stephen King says he writes the book and he puts it in a drawer for like 6 weeks to 3 months, and then he looks at it again. Do you do that?
I do that frequently. I have one book that I wrote 20 years ago, and I'm just in the process now of getting ready to get it published. There are a number of reasons for that besides just putting it aside. But yes, when you go back and rewrite it, number one, you find that your craft evolves, that your thinking evolves, and also your environment evolves. So it's really a good idea. I would concur with that.
Okay. Do you write every day?
I write every day. I get up and I write from about 3:30 in the morning till about noon. And I do the business portion of writing, and I think that's something that everyone should understand. When you undertake the responsibility of being an author and writer, you also undertake the responsibility of promoting your books. Today, publishers do not promote. Even the largest authors like James Patterson, you see his commercials on TV for his books. And the plain and awful truth of it is that as competitive as the market is today, publishers simply can't afford it. It's up to you to be your own mouthpiece.
Okay, so what do you mean by the business portion? Is this the advertising part that you're doing?
It's not only advertising, but it's all those things. It's developing your platform. I think it's very important for authors to have a platform. I do a lot of public speaking. And the reason why I do a lot of public speaking is that a platform is designed to give you credibility. And when you're talking to people, what you do, and they listen to you, and they believe that what you're saying is credible, this transfers directly to your writing. And once people believe that what you're saying is worthwhile listening to, they transfer that right to reading, and that sells books.
Very good, very good. So do you outline before you begin a book, or do you just write from the seat of your pants, or combination?
I do a 3-step item. I write the book in 300 words. I actually write a short story, if you will, and I make it that I can't exceed 300 words. I then do a detailed outline, and I do what I call piecework with the outline. After I have the outline, I have certain key constituents in the novel that I have actually in my mind, the exchanges between the characters and so on. And I write those details, and then I kind of fill in the flesh on the skeleton.
Very good. Very good. Thank you.
I write from the back to the front.
So you write from the conclusion to the beginning.
That's right. And if you write a short story that way, it makes it much more easy to do that. Okay. I never know how long my books are going to be. They are what the story tells me it is. But if you have a conclusion, if you have a message for your reader, and you put that, you keep that uttermost in your mind, and you have a way to get there, then you can fill the chunks in with key pieces, and then fill in the areas in between, and it gives you a coherent piece of work.
Oh, very good. I'll have to remember that. Where do you get your ideas from?
Being old.
What?
Being old. I think one of the things, I don't attempt to write fantasy or items like that because I think that takes an uncluttered young mind to do that. And I've lived long enough that I understand that my mind has lines that are so reinforced by logic, it's difficult for me to stray from that. So what I try to do is I leave the items that require uncluttered thinking to the young and the flexible, and I try to do history and items that are that do not require that flexibility and thinking.
Okay. Is there anything else that we didn't touch on that you'd like us to bring up?
Only one thing.
Okay.
I think as an author, that one of the things we have to keep uppermost in our minds is that people that read are our clients, and there are less and less people that read. And anything that we can do individually to try to encourage others to write, and I don't write children's books normally. However, I wrote a book and I give them away to libraries and elementary schools. It's a 12-page book called Why Reading Makes Me a Better Bear. And what I do with that is I try to encourage young kids to read, because that's our hope. Readers are thinkers, and open minds open books. Those two things are just absolute truths. And getting young people in the habit of reading and learning that really is their way to improve themselves, that's really important.
Well, thank you very much. And do you have a website?
Yes, I do. It's
and that is?
www.dlhavlin.com.
And thank you very much, DL, for being here. Thank you.
It was my pleasure, and thank you for inviting me.